At the turn of the 20th century, a young reporter, Napoleon Hill, was given an assignment to interview steel magnate Andrew Carnegie, a man who, despite being an immigrant born into poverty, had become one of the wealthiest people in history. During the fabled encounter, Carnegie asked Hill if he would be willing to dedicate his life to unearthing and documenting the secrets of the most successful people to ever live, then to share this formula with the world, to give everyone the opportunity to fulfill their dreams and achieve anything they so desire. The young reporter accepted Carnegie's challenge and began a 25-year journey that would lead him to interview many extraordinary people. In 1937, the results of this quest were immortalized in Think and Grow Rich. In it, Hill showed that those who succeed do so irrespective of their circumstance, that potential is not predicated on age, race, education, gender, finances, or any other perceived disadvantage. It ignited a flame of ambition and helped end the Great Depression. 100 million copies, and 80 years later, this book continues to inspire ordinary people to extraordinary achievement. It is the playbook through which countless entrepreneurs, innovators, and cultural icons unlock their potential, creating an alternate reality of abundance, purpose, and prosperity.
Thomas, why are you not in school? Your son is a genius. This school is too small for him and doesn't have enough good teachers for training him. Please teach him yourself. I'm gonna have you read to me today. So here you go. Remember where we left off? I think we were here. So start from there.
Miss Edison, your son is adult. He is mentally slow and unable to think clearly. We won't let him come to school anymore. Sincerely, Headmaster Jonas Well.
Every life has more than one potential reality. Every life. Could it really be true that the only difference between an ordinary life and the life of extraordinary fulfillment is the way we think?
A lot of people relate riches just to money. Riches take in everything in our life. It takes in our health, our relationships, with ourselves, with other people, as well as our ability to earn money. Money by itself is just an idea. Life should be a rich experience. It should never be shallow. Most people live like minnows in the shallows. They got to get out into the deep, and that's what Hill's material is designed to do.
The hardest thing to actually master is faith. Because faith is the piece that's going to give you the ability to continue through the highs and lows and not just achieve one single vision, but how to apply it to every aspect of your life. Because when you get to that level, you feel like you're manipulating reality.
I don't think there was a point along the way of my career where I wasn't seeing myself in a movie of where I was going to be a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out, and I saw it like it existed. You have to not only picture it, but picture it in living color and in great detail. And then, of course, the book teaches you if you could imagine it, you can accomplish it. And I found that to be entirely true. If I could imagine it, I always got it.
Think and Grow Rich is relevant because we are always going to have to rely, first and foremost, on our thoughts to be able to move anything in our world. So the concept itself is evergreen. It will last the ages.
Timeless principles will be with us in 10,000 years. You've got to know them and you've got to practice them. It's that simple.
Every one of us has inside of us, it's innate, it's in our DNA, the desire to do something big.
One thing I tell people is once you stay with it, stay with it, stay with it long enough, when you break through and you finally make it, there's a release of this unbelievable power and new levels of power you break into just by staying with it.
Every adversity carries a seed of a greater good. Because as a blind person myself, I realized, okay, I got me one big seed of adversity here, and I need to find a greater good, a compensating balance.
Success is how you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror. It has nothing to do with what the reflection is. It's, are you contributing to society? Do you feel good about who you are and how you live your life?
So if you lived a normal life, what is a normal life? 74 or 77 years on Earth? Do the calculus. That only equates to 30,000 days on Earth. Time is not running out, but your life is. You've been chosen, place your fingerprints on life, and make a difference right now. That's what it means to be wealthy.
To me, Think and Grow Rich are 3 words. Think means the mind, and that you need to use the mind to propel you on the path towards success. Grow means that you need to nourish it and constantly seek the growth and improvement of your mind. So the growth and improvement of your mind is what ultimately delivers the payoff, which is you become rich. So to be rich, to me, means control. You're in control of your life. Being able to do the work that I want to do, the way that I want to do it, when I want to do it, and to the level of excellence that I want to do it at. Living life by my own accord.
It's about having freedom. Freedom to choose where you want to be, who you want to be with, what you want to do for a living, how hard you want to work, who you want in your life, who you want out of your life. It's freedom. Freedom to have your life exactly like you dreamt it to be and actually make it happen. That's rich.
Rich is not just synonymous with money. Rich is synonymous with living. Life is about an expression of spirit. How can I be more artfully expressing who I am fully in a joyous way and accepting life as it comes to me without precondition?
The difference is night and day. Once you become successful, once you live a rich life, financially and every other way, you'll wonder, why didn't I do this sooner? This is not a closed club. You can have all you want anytime you want. And it's just a matter of changing your life by simply changing your mind. So the question is never can we, the question is will we? Your future hangs in the balance.
One of my favorite stories from the whole of Think and Grow Rich is the story of Edwin C. Barnes. This is a guy that had absolutely nothing and was really in a desperate place.
I love his story because he just saw one thing. Like, he had a vision for what he wanted, and he would not settle.
The story goes of how he approaches Thomas Edison after traveling across the country with nothing in his pocket, literally nothing in his pocket, to go to the greatest inventor probably in history and say, I want to go into business with you.
Mr. Edison. Mr. Edison. Mr. Edison, I'm Edwin C. Barnes, your new partner.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. How do you do, sir?
Yes, how much for a ticket to Orange, New Jersey?
$16.40.
All aboard for Orange, New Jersey.
May I help you?
Yes, I'm here to meet with Mr. Edison.
Do you have an appointment?
No, but tell him that Mr. Edwin C. Barnes is here to meet with him and that I said he'll be very glad to have met me. Thank you.
No. Tell them I don't care. We are not buckling. Do whatever you have to do. So, you're the man I will be glad to have met, are you?
Yes, Mr. Edwin C. Barnes.
And what have you invented, Mr. Barnes?
Nothing, Mr. Edison.
You're not an inventor?
No, sir, I'm a businessman.
And your aim is?
To be your partner in business, sir.
You're not looking for a job?
Sir, I will take whatever job you have to offer, but my ultimate goal is to be in partnership with Mr. Thomas A. Edison.
You seem pretty sure of yourself for a man who hasn't invented anything.
I have something far more powerful.
And what might that be?
I am not interested in anything other than this one goal, and I will do whatever it takes to get it.
You know, I turn away 100 men every week.
I am not at all surprised.
And most of them have invented some darn contraption or other. Electric chicken plucker, a automatic pen refiller. That one cost me a shirt. And you stand here with nothing.
Sir, desire is not nothing.
I guess not.
I have vision. I believe it will come true one day, and I will stick by that, however long and hard the path.
I've learned over the years that when a man desires a thing so deeply that he's willing to sacrifice his entire future on a single turn of the wheel just to get it, you should never bet against that man.
So where should I start working my way up?
Tell Mr. Burroughs to start you in the stockroom.
Thank you.
No.
Demand.
No.
No market.
No.
It is not how much it costs, gentlemen. It's how much time and manpower is saved by this dictating machine.
I don't think my region's gonna go for it, Mr. Edison.
Your region is New York.
Besides, it doesn't save manpower. It saves women's time. And secretaries are 10 cents a dance.
I believe I can sell you a dictating machine, Mr. Edison.
In New York?
Every city in America. One day, every office, and every town's gonna have one of these. Time is money. When you save one, you make the other.
Even women's time?
No such thing. Time's time.
What's this?
Plans. To sell your invention.
There's a marketing plan. Barnes, I'm giving you the job of head of sales of the Edison dictating machine.
For the whole region?
For the country. I'll have him draw up a contract.
You won't regret it.
And you won't be riding any more freight trains.
As he had envisioned, Edwin C. Barnes became the business partner of Thomas Edison. Under the slogan "Built by Edison, installed by Barnes," their partnership lasted more than 30 years and made Edwin C. Barnes a very rich man. but more importantly, he proved the power of desire.
Patience is such an important commodity to have. Like, most people don't have patience. And that's because they don't have faith. They don't believe that it's going to happen or happen soon enough. And we're in a culture where we want things right now. You gotta be careful with that because that'll destroy you. You end up dabbling, and you end up giving up, and you end up missing out on so many amazing things that life has to offer if you give up too soon.
My eternal search is, how do I live a half-full life where every day I get up with energy? And the only way to ultimately do that is to calibrate all aspects of your life and create a life plan from love to business to security. You have to build that if you want to achieve that. And what I would consider true wealth is getting up every day and looking at the world half full.
A few years ago, I was in my office. It was around 9:30 in the evening. And I was shuffling bits of paper and wondering, who am I going to go and see for a bit of business to earn some fees to pay those bills? And the office security guard came in the building to lock up. And he just said to me, time to lock up. And I said, just give me 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes. And then he walked away and I just stood up and went to the filing cabinet and looked at a few files. Who could I call for a bit of business? And he came back again and I said, well, just give me 2 more minutes. And then in that moment, he asked me a question, and this one question changed the whole of my life. He said to me, what time do you get in this morning? I just, well, 8 o'clock, and then he walked away. But as I stood there by the filing cabinet, I realized, well, I've been up since 6, on the road at 7, in the office at 8 o'clock. It's now 10 in the evening almost. By the time I get home, it's going to be something like 10:45 at night. And I'd done that, not just today, but last week and the week before. In fact, for months, in fact, for years I've been doing that. And being absent from my family, working all these hours, getting absolutely nowhere. And in that moment, I remember standing by the filing cabinet and I grabbed the filing drawer and I just slammed it. And I said, I've had enough of this. In that moment, I had an idea. And the idea came through me. The idea said to me, what you need to do to achieve your goals is you have to set daily standards and live by those standards. Set standards from who you are, authentically from yourself, and be that person just one day at a time. What I did next was I created a sheet that had all my new standards in, how I would take my kids to school in the morning and pick them up from school 3 nights a week, and no more working weekends. That's another rule, another standard. No more evening appointments for clients. And any clients that I have from this point onwards, they'd have to come and see me in the office from anywhere in the country. And also I'd go home and I would have meals with my family, and I would exercise and train every single day. I even made standards around my clients, how much income they should have, the wealth that they should have, and they must be nice people. I've got my goals, but unless I'm involved and committed to my life on a daily basis, the only unit of time we really have is today, because we're here today. I was one of the worst producers in the company, although I did the most hours. I was about 1200th in terms of new business results. 3 years later, after my moment, the company's 1600 strong, and I'm 28th in the company working part-time. I'd increased my income by 10 times, working less than half the time that I used to, sticking to these standards and being my authentic self. So my life changed. We had lots of holidays, we bought another home, and we had all the trappings of life. But my real riches came in my relationships with my wife, my children. I became a better son. I became a better brother, a better friend to all those around me, and I grew rich in relationships and in love.
Well, I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is a lot better, but rich means I don't have to change my time for someone else's money. I can do anything I want because I think it's good and pure and powerful and honorable and significant. I get to do what I want to do. So whether it's feeding people in Haiti or sending 500 kids to college or creating a nice lifestyle for myself and those people I care about, being rich is living life the way you feel you should be and having the wherewithal to do it.
The Henry Ford story totally blew me away, and I was able to read it and immediately act on it. I was great at certain things in my business, which I knew what they were, imagination. I was great at marketing. I was great at recruiting, all the outside things, but I wasn't any good at all at reading numbers or understanding finance. When I read that Henry Ford story, I immediately went out and I hired Esther Kaplan, my opposite, as my business partner. She could do financial statements, get the money from the bank, create the systems, do personnel management, all the stuff that I wasn't good at, she was great at. And if not for that story, I don't think I would have seen the light that you can always hire the attributes in the next guy that you don't have yourself and build an empire on their know-how versus your know-how. And that made me really, not only smarter, but set me free.
Not merely an ignorant idealist, but an anarchistic enemy of the nation, capable of thought, cannot see the ignominy. Get me Landers. Did you see it? It's libel. I'm going to sue the Chicago Tribune for $1 million.
On this day in 1919, the whole world was watching to see if Henry Ford could prove that his success was not by chance. The only question was, would he succeed?
Mr. Ford, is today the day? How does it feel to be the voice of the common man? Mr. Ford, what do you think, Mr. Ford?
Your Honor, since the case for libel rests on the determination as to whether what the Chicago Tribune printed was true or not, defense would like to call Henry Ford to the stand for a demonstration as to whether or not he is an ignorant man.
Very well, Mr. Ford, you will take the stand.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Ford, I'm going to ask you a few simple questions to determine whether or not you're an ignorant man. How much schooling do you have?
I went to grammar school to the age of 16 when I quit to become a mechanic in a machine shop. That turned out to be a considerably more useful education for the work I would become famous for.
Can you tell me how many soldiers the British sent to America to put down the rebellion of 1776?
Well, I don't know the exact amount, but I heard it was considerably larger than ever went back.
Who was Secretary of State under James Madison?
I myself was not alive in 1811. And even if I was, I don't see how that particular tidbit would help me run my business. How many people in this courtroom know the answer
Your Honor,
to that
I
question?
object. The witness is not permitted to question the public.
Nobody? Doesn't surprise me. And how many of you good people got a college education?
Your Honor.
I suggest you try to get your money back on that, since the Chicago Tribune could write that you're ignorant on the front page of their newspaper and try to get away with proving it.
Mr. Ford, would you please confine yourself to answering the question?
Well, can you repeat the question?
Who was Secretary of State under James Madison?
Well, I can answer that at once. The answer is, I do not know. Off the record, Judge, you know the answer to that one.
Off the record, no.
And you got at least 2 college degrees.
I have 3 university degrees.
Well, it seems like a pretty silly way to measure intelligence. I can maybe save us all a little time here, gentlemen. As you know, I am one of the most successful manufacturers in this country. Folks drive my cars in every city in America, and they outnumber all the other types of cars by a big margin. I raised the wages of my workers to $5 per day. Ever heard of anybody else doing that? If I don't choose to clutter up my brain with general facts and tidbits of historical knowledge, well, I don't have to. As I have a row of electric buttons on my desk, I can push any one and have at my elbow an expert in every branch of knowledge who are on my payroll. Does that sound ignorant to you?
The witness is trying to take over this trial again, Your Honor. I move that he be found in contempt of this court.
Motion denied, Mr. Jensen. I think we're about finished here.
I am almost finished here, Judge. I want to ask one last question. Do you think an ignorant hick tripped in a junkyard and accidentally invented the internal combustion engine-powered automobile? If you think that, I suggest you try making one at home from scratch. Then we'll compare it to my creation and see whose looks like it was made by an ignorant man incapable of thought.
Through the assistance of his Mastermind group, Henry Ford had at his command all the specialized knowledge he needed to enable him to become one of the most accomplished people in the world.
The court finds in favor of the plaintiff, the Honorable Henry Ford. I drive one of your automobiles myself, Mr. Ford. Damn fine piece of machinery.
People think that you have to be brilliant in every aspect in business and life or whatever it is to be successful. I believe that we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses, but you really need to foster your strengths, whatever your weaknesses are, that you surround yourself with those types of people. Henry Ford created a mastermind alliance, and that's what you have to do.
Everything we see in the world that was created by man was first created in his mind. It's like Van Gogh said, I dream my painting, and then I paint my dream. We have to understand that whatever Rembrandt or Van Gogh used, we have available to us.
This book changed my life. It was August 18th, 2006. I'd been practicing law, and a friend invited me to a management seminar. And I remember arriving on the Friday night, and I'm in the seminar room, and it was such a transformative evening that I could tell you exactly where I was sitting. I could tell you what I was wearing, and I could tell you what the speaker that came out on stage was wearing and what he was saying. And, well, it was Bob Proctor. And he had the book Think and Grow Rich. And he was talking about the lessons he had learned. At that time, I guess it was about over 45 years. He's now been studying the book for 55 years. He said, most people tiptoe through life, hoping to make it safely to death. I thought, wow, what a concept, because when we're born, we're risk takers. We're just naturally risk takers. We want to get up there, we want to walk around, we want to, learn to run and learn to do things. And then as we grow older, we're taught to play it safe. Stay in the comfort zone. And he quoted Bill Gove saying, if I want to be free, I got to be me. Not the me I think you think I should be, not the me I think my wife thinks I should be, not the me I think my kids think I should be. If I want to be free, I got to be me. And I better know who me is. And I remember it was like a bucket of ice poured over my head, and I thought, oh my God, am I living the life I'm meant to live? And he kept saying, what do you want? What do you really want? And something inside of me woke up, and it was like, there is a greater purpose for me. I'm physically in the seminar room, but my mind is flashing through the boardrooms and executive offices. And I started to see this program. I started to see the design of the program, what it would be called, Thinking into Results. I could see it on a Fortune 50 executive's bookshelf, and I could see the executives coming up to me and saying what a big impact it had on their life and their family's life and their entire company and community. And I remember walking out of the seminar room on the Sunday evening, turning around and literally talking to the seminar room, and I said, I don't know how, but I'm gonna do this.
Babe Ruth, everybody knows he had the record for the most home runs, but he also did well in the strikeouts. One time he was asked by a sports reporter, said, Babe, what do you think about when a pitcher strikes it out? He said, I'm starting to feel sorry for the next one I face because it's time for another home run. So he didn't concentrate on the strikeouts because often he'd strike out several times in one game. But he also, a lot of games, he hit a home run with somebody on base and won the ball game. So only the success is what counts. But we can lose focus by counting on where we didn't succeed and not enjoy and progress on what's been successful for us.
When I first saw the book Think and Grow Rich, it reminded me when I told my mom at 16, I'm gonna get rich. The mentality that really makes the difference is action. It's not intelligence, it's not connections, it is action. I've never thought I was limited to this, the cranium or 5'8", or a body. He was really confronting the spiritual being, not the physical body. Thought is not a physical thing, it's out here, right? I've just been lucky enough since the age of 25 to be interested in my personal development and getting rid of limited thinking so I could have and create and move toward abundance and prosperity and freedom, real freedom. You're free if you create freedom for yourself. And that first starts with the ability to think freely.
So people always ask me, is there a way to change a negative thought to a positive thought? And the answer is no. You're out of luck. You can't do that. The only way you can change a negative thought is with a positive affirmation, when you say your goals out loud. So the moment I have a negative thought, I say my goals out loud, and then the negative thought goes away.
Mary Kim Titla, who is the National Executive Director of United National Indian Tribal Youth, she and I have worked together with Native youth now for 20 years. And a few years ago, she said, would you come and speak to my son Bear's 8th grade football team? Because they're getting killed, they're getting demoralized. They lost 48-0 yesterday, they lost 38-0 last week, 28-10 the week before. It keeps getting worse. I said, sure, and I drove down. It's about an hour and a half. It's literally the land of Geronimo. That's where he's from. And I simply said to them, you know, you're in 8th grade, but I'm gonna tell you something that will help you the rest of your lives that is just as important and just as true for you as it is for NFL players, which is the only thing you have to do right now is to use all of your focus and bring all of your passion. It may sound simple. That's all you have to do for the next 2 hours, because there's so many players that have more speed, more talent, more physical ability that never make it in the NFL because they never learned that. For the next 2 hours, I challenge you to do that. In the first 11 plays, and I have witnesses to this, they scored 3 touchdowns. They won the rest of their games. Mary Kim told me they didn't lose another game. And then 3 months later, she calls me up and she says, 16 of those 22 young people are on the basketball team, including my son Bear, the quarterback, and they just finished the regular season undefeated. Now, that wasn't my power. It was simply helping them see the power they had.
Well, my story starts as a young man. At age 17, my biggest ambition was to be an All-American football player and then go into the NFL and hopefully play for the beloved Dallas Cowboys. And the coaches and the scouts and the people that monitor those sorts of things kind of assured me I had the size and speed to do that. And I thought my future was set. Then one day, during a routine physical to go play another season of football, I was diagnosed with the condition that would cause me to lose my sight. 10 years later, I was totally blind, and I woke up that morning. I instantly knew I'd lost the remainder of my sight, and I knew I would live the rest of my life as a blind person, and the thoughts and the doubts and the fears that came over me would be impossible to describe. I was 29 years old. I had never met a blind person. I didn't have a clue what I was going to do with the rest of my life. So the only plan I could come up with involved moving into this little 9 by 12 foot room in the back of my house. And in my little room, I had my radio and my telephone and my tape recorder. And I really fully intended to never leave that room again. The thought of traveling millions of miles and talking to millions of people, or writing 30 books and having 6 of them made into movies, or doing speeches, or running a television network with over 1,000 stations, or doing this movie project would have seemed as foreign to me as going to the moon. So I sat in my little 9 by 12 foot self-imposed prison, and I never thought I would leave that room again. And I sat there broke and despondent and depressed and suicidal. I thought of that. I remember they brought me a white cane, and they said, Jim, this will never be away from your side. You'll never have a job. People won't like you. Women won't want to hang around with you. Men won't put up with you. You're never going to make money. You'll need to get on relief or welfare. And this cane will never be more than a few feet away from you until you die. And I sat that cane on one side of my chair. And on the other side of my chair were tapes that people had given me of Think and Grow Rich and other great books. And I realized there's not much I can do sitting in this little room, broke and scared. I can't even get out of this little room, but I can think. And the whole world changed because I changed my life when I changed my mind, sitting in that little room. Because on one side was the white cane, and on the other side was a voice telling me pure, powerful, positive possibility. And I realized somebody's lying to me. And I figured I'd rather die believing in possibility than live believing that we're all here to be poor.
Well, some people don't believe in the law of attraction, but I've proven it, I've seen it scientifically, and therefore it exists. Some people ask me, as a scientist, can thoughts really change the world? Can they really create things? Yes, of course, thoughts can really impact reality. As we have shown in our water research, you can even change your physical body. We have believed for a long time that water is able to store information. Then we came across a method which is a simple dark field microscope. And with this dark field microscope, we take photographs from drops of water. The drops are placed on a glass plate. Then the water evaporates. You expect probably on this glass plate a random picture, but this isn't a random picture. The structure in this picture depends on the information which has been in the water. So basically it depends on what the water has experienced in the past. And then we impact thoughts, special thoughts. For example, please build a center, you drop. The experimenter influences the pictures we see. A person does not touch the water. The water is in a syringe, and if you have your strong thoughts enough, then we see after evaporating that a center is built in this drop. This is a transition from the spiritual to the physical world. And in this transition, we pass the state of form. Thoughts are feelings. You have good thoughts or you have bad thoughts. And for example, if you have a shock, if you have a bad emotion, then you will see that afterwards, all the drops you made are not the same as before. These drops are totally changed. These drops are really unstructured. You realize that you are what you think, and you create your surrounding as you are. And I think this is the most important thought.
The power of thought can be so strong and have such an impact that you don't even realize what your thoughts might do to you or to others. It was sometime in the late 80s, I was living in La Jolla. It was during a very severe drought in California. I had heard on the radio that the reservoirs were so low that there was no drinking water for animals who would visit these reservoirs, and animals were dying, and I thought, well, this sounds like a good cause. So we thought we'd make t-shirts and bumper stickers, because back then you didn't have social media and other ways to promote things. It was very old school. And we wanted to have this name called Think Rain. So Think Rain was this idea we had, and we were going to use it to create awareness about raising money and also maybe even get people to think about the necessity to conserve water. I called up Sacramento from Southern California and I said,
how long does it take to get a statewide trademark? Really?
And they basically said, we'll send you the application. That'll take probably 2 weeks. You can fill it out, send it back. But I don't really have that much time. You know, in my mind, it was an emergency. I decided we were doing it and I wasn't going to wait for paperwork. So we got in the car, my friend drove, and we had a pad of paper, and I took a pen and I scribbled on it really thick, Think Rain. And as soon as we got on the freeway, the first car I held the sign up to, without even realizing it, was a station wagon full of nuns. And they were like, you know, bless you, you know? So we began to flash every single car we saw through the whole state of California on our way from Southern to Northern California to go to the state capitol to get this document we wanted to secure ownership of the name. I don't know how many people we flashed. It must have been, I don't know, it could have been 1,000 or more. And every person was like, yeah, Think Rain, that's a great idea. And so as we pulled into Sacramento, I remember going under this underpass, and as we went under it, there was like a drop of water that hit the windshield, and I thought, is that like just condensation? What was that? So we pull into the Capitol, and we go into the Secretary of State's office.
Look, her schedule is really full up today. I'm sorry.
It's really important that we get our trademark done today.
No, you have to submit it, and the Secretary of State will review it, and we'll send it back to you.
Is there anything you can do to just get 5 minutes? I promise. That's all it'll take.
We told her what it was about, and she goes, well, just a minute. And she comes back about 10 minutes later and says, the Secretary of State of California, March Fong Yu, will see you now. And we're like, really?
This is about bringing awareness about the terrible drought that's been going on in California. We believe that Think Rain can be something that people can start thinking positively about and putting their energy towards to stop this terrible drought. That's why we wanted to see you directly.
And you believe this will make a difference?
Madam Secretary, you can see outside your window. The drought is affecting everything.
Emma, can you bring the stamp in, please?
Go make history.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thanks.
My pleasure.
And we left, and we got in the car, and we started driving home. And as we drove home, it began to rain. And it rained, and it rained. And that drought was over. We never made a single bumper sticker. We never made a single t-shirt because there was no reason to.
the greatest gift we've ever been given, will start looking for ways to make your dream come true instead of looking for excuses, which is how you live until you have a definiteness of purpose.
For as long as I can remember, I've been an athlete. When I wasn't training, I was reading about it. When I wasn't reading about it, I was thinking about it. It was my life. In fact, my nickname was Janine the Machine because that embodied the sort of person I was. Well, I found myself as a member of the Australian ski team, and my goal was to represent my country at the Olympics, to really put Australia on the map as a force to be reckoned with. That was my dream, and nothing was going to stop me. Then on one warm autumn day, I set out on a training bike ride with my fellow teammates. We'd been on our bikes for around 5.5 hours when we got to the part of the ride that I loved, and I got up off the seat of my bike and I started pumping my legs, and as I sucked in the cold mountain air, I could feel it burning my lungs. And I looked up to see the sun shining in my face, and then everything went black. My body was consumed with pain. I'd been hit by a speeding truck. I'd broken my neck and my back in 6 places, 5 ribs on my left side, my right collarbone, my right arm. My head was cut open across the front, lifted back, exposing the skull underneath. I had internal injuries, and I had massive blood loss. One part of me was in intensive care, excruciating pain, and the other part was detached and pain-free. I spent 10 days between dimensions, and I was given a choice to stay in this spiritual dimension or to return to my broken body. After 10 days, I opened my eyes to find myself back in my body, and the journey had begun. I spent 6 months flat on my back in the spinal ward, and when I left, it was a very different person from the one that had come in. I had a body that didn't function. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't move my legs. I had no feeling from the waist down. And they told me that if I did walk again, it would be with calipers and a walking frame. I can remember my doctor saying to me, "What are you going to do when you get home?" And I said, "I'm going to the Olympics." And she looked at me and said, in a matter-of-fact way, "Janine, you're never going to be able to do the things you did before." And that was my rock bottom. And the only way that I was going to move forward was to let go of the life that I thought I was supposed to have. And when I made that decision, my whole life changed. I realized that even with my broken body, Janine the Machine was still alive. Sometime after that, I was sitting outside in my wheelchair in my plaster body cast, and an aeroplane flew overhead. And I looked up and I thought to myself, okay, if I can't walk, then maybe I can fly. That moment changed my life. In my plaster body cast and a pair of baggy overalls that my mother bought me, my friend and my mother drove me out to the local airport, and they lifted me into a light aircraft for the first time. Everybody thought I was crazy, and I remember sitting in the cockpit and wondering how on earth would I ever be able to do this. But I had a dream, and the instructor that was next to me took off and allowed me to fly that day with my hands. And I thought to myself, I can do this. I am going to learn how to fly. There was something burning so strongly inside me that nothing could stop me.
A burning desire is an inner candle, an inner flame that can never be extinguished. And no matter what may go before you, come hell or high water, you are going to bet your existence on this burning desire. And if the cynics come, and the doubters come, and the negative, toxic people come, you will use their cynicism, you will use their doubt to propel you forward. Arguably, one of the most impactful and inspiring stories and profiles in my book, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, centers on Mary McLeod Bethune, when she started what is now Bethune-Cookman College. You go back to the mid to the late 1920s, and here's a black woman who had never been president of anything. I mean, she had never been executive director. She had never been first in her class. But what did she have? She had a dream.
Hello. Are you here for school?
Yes.
What's your name?
Mary McLeod. Can I help you carry them books?
Those books.
Those books.
Yes. Thank you, Mary. Why are you so early?
It's 5 miles, and I didn't know how long it would take to walk over here.
You walked 5 miles by yourself. How old are you, Mary?
11. I run most of the way.
Why did you come by yourself? Don't you have brothers and sisters?
I have 2 younger brothers, but they too small to come. And 14 big brothers and sisters, but they too busy with work and such. But when you teaches me how to read, I can teach all of them how to read too.
True. Miss Mary McLeod, you ran 5 miles before breakfast, and you are the 15th of 17 children.
Yes, and
this is your desk. And this is your first book.
But I can't read it. I don't even know its name.
You will read it.
This is the best day ever. Better than birthdays and Christmas and all the other days.
In 1904, with only 6 students and desks made of discarded milk crates, Mary Bethune started her own school for girls. In 1931, she became president of Bethune-Cookman College. Shortly after, she was invited to the White House by President Roosevelt and First Lady Eleanor.
Right this way, Miss Bethune.
What an honor to meet you.
The honor is mine, Mrs. Roosevelt.
You know, you were the president of a college when there was hardly a woman college president anywhere in the world.
Well, when you start a little school and grow it up to be a college, no one can tell you no to being president.
Your college is thriving now while others are failing, and I know why. It is our pledge to make a lasting contribution to all that is finest and best in America, to cherish and enrich her heritage of freedom by working to integrate all her people, regardless of race, creed, or national origin.
I can't believe I'm sitting in the White House and the First Lady is quoting me to me.
How was this fire born in you? Have you always had it?
Well, when I was a little girl, I went with Mama to deliver laundry to a white lady's house, and I picked a book up and the child snatched it away. "You can't read," she said. And I decided that that was the only difference between white and black folks, was that white folks could read. My whole life was based on that.
God bless that little brat, wherever she may be. She helped create a great woman who's brought the light into thousands of lives. I'm going to the National Convention of Women in Florida. I've asked to be seated next to you on the platform.
Now, Mrs. Roosevelt, you know it's against the law in the state of Florida for white and black folks to sit next to each other.
I know. I'd like to see the officer with the gumption to try and arrest the 2 of us.
Yeah, that would be a whole heap of gumption at that.
Yes, a whole heap.
President Roosevelt is ready to meet Mrs. Bethune now.
Oh my, oh my. Christmas and birthdays all rolled into one.
She started where she was, and she wasn't going to be deterred. Now, when you look at Bethune-Cookman College, they have close to 20,000 notable alumni across the country, and it all started because here is a woman who refused to let go of her dreams.
One of the standout things that I notice about all these successful people that I've interviewed is that they are willing to master whatever industry or whatever craft they are going into. They don't dabble, they don't just do a little bit here, a little bit there. They have that one thing and they focus and they go all in. They're on a relentless pursuit to make their dreams happen.
The toughest thing to understand is, what do you want to master? And the earlier you can decide that, the better off you will ever be, because that means you're only going to get better and better and better with time.
So I look back on my journey, and I received a lot of great advice. But the best advice that I would give would be, if you want to be, do. I love that piece of advice because it's simple, it's direct, it's to the point, and it's why I'm a success. I wanted to be a podcaster, so I had to do podcasting. If you want to be a writer, you have to write. If you want to be in music, you have to sing. I mean, it's just that simple. And people try to complicate things. They try to put all these barriers and struggles in front of them that shouldn't really exist. The reality is, if you want to be something, just wake up and do that thing. Put in those 10,000 hours. Now that I've interviewed over 1,400 entrepreneurs, I'm getting pretty close to my 10,000 hours. But if I look back at hour 10, I was really, really bad. If I look back at hour 100, I was okay. If I look back at hour 1,000, I was getting good. And that's the process. So if you want to be X, do X. It's really that simple of a process.
Dreams are the spark plugs of the spirit. Imagination enables you to really think, imagine, decide on what you'd like to do with your life. You know, Napoleon Hill said that everything begins as a piece of energy. Everything around you right now, in your life, you've created. So change what's up here, and you'll change what's out there in the world.
If you want to inspire the world, follow your dreams. If you don't want to inspire people, don't follow your dreams. It's so valuable and important to chase those dreams. Whether you actually achieve them or not is irrelevant. It's the pursuit of you going after what you were born to do is what inspires other people. And it inspires yourself more than anything else in that pursuit.
Most people look at what success can give them, and that's what they obsess over, rather than obsessing over what it would actually take to get the success. And I think that's probably the clearest line between those that actually achieve it and those that don't.
Probably the biggest obstacle that any individual has to overcome is mindset. You know, the words, the pictures, and images going through our mind at any given time. There are two people that we find over the course of our life. Number one, the individual who sees exactly what he or she wants. And number two, the individual who only sees the obstacle that blocks him or her from getting what they want.
When you're pursuing someone in an attempt to win their affection, to become their significant other, you try to think of all these ways, all these creative things that you can do, really just utilizing any way possible to get their attention, to get them to become yours. You can do that with all areas of your life. You can do that with anything that you have a desire for, taking all your resources and putting it into that to make it yours.
Being rich is being fulfilled in all areas of your life. It's doing what you love. It's growing. It's affection. When I focused on what I loved, helping others, and doing the things that I was great at, the rest came with money, growth, love. And love is what pushes you further. I found out that love has influenced me to do things that I never thought are possible. When you're in love, you have power beyond belief to achieve great things.
And that can be love for a person, or love for a creative endeavor, or even having passion for a business that you yourself create.
Napoleon Hill talks about how we should always be open for opportunities, looking for things that can help us to enhance and further our goals. And one of the things that you could do to help boost that is to start saying yes more. It's one of my favorite topics, saying yes more. The Australians call it a bias for yes, the Spanish call it sí a todo. Buddhists call it living in the current of life. I call it saying yes more. Saying yes to invitations, saying yes to parties, saying yes to emotions, saying yes to potential business opportunities. Say yes more in your life, and you will naturally open yourself up to more of the opportunities that start coming.
See, I think every human being can live up to their fullest potential. They don't live because of fears. They don't believe that they can do this. And my advice is, if a kid like me living in slums can sit here and give this interview, and they have a lot more to start than I ever had in my life, why can't they do this? It's easy. Just believe in yourself. You can be and do and have anything in your life if you decide to do that.
The one piece of advice that I share with everyone to change their life, over 10 years of research of physics, metaphysics, quantum physics, of all types of tremendous experience, the easiest way to change your life is to say thank you or think thank you before you go to bed, and to say or think thank you when you wake up. Now, you need to do it 30 straight days so it becomes a part of your subconscious and your unconscious, but that attitude of gratitude will attract everything you desire. It'll change your entire perspective and your entire reality.
Each and every one of us are where we are today because of the choices we've made before today. And if we want something different, if we want to truly be rich, we may need to make a few different choices from today going forward.
You cannot change anything in your life unless you change the way you think about life. If you want to change what you're doing in 5 years, you have to change what you're doing now. And any change requires action, and any action requires thinking. So you have to assess yourself and decide what you're going to do and what direction you're going to go. And then you can take those thoughts and change them into action, and eventually allow you to change your life.
There is a legend of an ancient commander. He ordered his men ashore, leaving only a single sentry aboard each of his ships. His soldiers were about to face an army that far outnumbered his own. But the commander knew that fear itself was the greater enemy. It was his belief in their courage that inspired him to act, that inspired him to remove even the possibility of retreat.
My men have courage in their hearts. Victory lies within them. How can I unleash it? Burn the ship! Burn them all! There is no retreat! We will not leave these shores alive! Unless we win! We either triumph or we perish!
And when they did, each person who wins in any undertaking must be willing to burn their ships and remove any chance of retreat. This is essential to succeed.
When you read this book, Think and Grow Rich, it really hits you hard when you think about the story of burning the ships. There is no other option. There's no backup plan for this. It's either do or die. And that's exactly what my parents did. Imagine coming to a foreign country, you don't even speak the language, And then you come to this country with a suitcase with a few pairs of clothes, and then you land right here somewhere in Los Angeles, California. Most people don't even understand the sacrifice. They leave everything behind. And we would sit there and ask our parents why they work so hard, why they work 2, 3 jobs. They're always on call. You know, they had pagers, and some of the millennial this day and age don't even know what pagers are. Now, I remember my mother always saying to me that we did not come to this country to screw up this opportunity. When I first started in business, I needed money. I couldn't help other people until I could help myself first, right? I mean, I had to make sure that I put food on the table, that I had a roof over my head, that I actually had a vehicle that would be able to take me from point A to B. And even that was a big deal because I had a car. I had a 1967 Volkswagen Bug, you know, and oftentimes I was just can you just get me to point B? And I would be sweating going from point A to point B because my car didn't even have an air conditioner in it. And even to roll down the window, it took 2 hands to do it. I mean, literally, I put one hand on the window. One would go on the little, the handle to roll down the window, and I would roll down the window like this, because if I just did this, that window went slamming into the door panel, and it would take 2 hands, people on both sides of the window trying to push it back up. And so I wanted a nice car, you know, and you see all these people that have nice cars, and I always wanted to know, what is it like to have a nice car? Maybe Think and Grow Rich means to buy the nice cars. Well, I got the nice cars, and then I thought, well, maybe Think and Grow Rich means to have a beautiful home. And so I went and got a nice house. And it's a beautiful home, and my family's there. I've got so many people that I know that have a lot of money, but they're not that happy. And then I've got a lot of people that they don't have a lot of money, and they're also unhappy. So what does it take? Is money gonna make people happy? I mean, money can certainly make people, you know, make their lives somewhat easier, but I'm not quite sure if it'll make people happy. And so thinking and growing rich, I think what it means at the end of the day is to be happy, you know, in every aspect of your life.
I was 46, thinking I'm made for life, and the universe said, no, you're not. We're gonna make you start again. I was quite wealthy, I'd been successful, and I got mixed up in a shopping centre development that went terribly wrong. And we borrowed $1 million, interest rates went to 22%, and I'm faced with an interest bill of $2,000 a week. I got no money, I've got 3 young kids, I got a house mortgage, and I was facing bankruptcy. Napoleon Hill says, the defining moment can be the darkest day in your life. And once you know that, it's a bit easier. You need to take the focus off how bad it is for me to what can I do to change it. I wrote a plan and I started doing something. But I had this urge to share what I'd learnt with other people. And that led me to write a book called Making Money Made Simple. And I wrote the book and nobody wanted it. I couldn't find a publisher. But I kept going, and eventually I found a little publisher who said he would publish it if I bore the risk. So I did that, and that book became the biggest bestseller in Australia's history. For me, it was faith that pulled me through.
It is not a book that you read once. You literally have to use it as a tool and read it every single year for the rest of your life, because you have to master the principles, not just know what they are. Because if they don't all holistically work together, you actually won't achieve anything. You'll be spinning your wheels in different principles and not fully understand what it actually means to achieve that 6th sense. Because when you get to that level, you really believe that you are creating your entire existence because you have mastered all of the steps that allow you to not just achieve one single vision, but how to apply it to every aspect of your life to create a reality, you know. And I would say very few people ever get to that stage or fully even understand that that's even possible.
There's no secret to success. If there is a secret to success, it's just that. There is no secret. When it comes to wealth, when it comes to prosperity, when it comes to abundance, it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with gender, who your parents are. your level of education, but it has everything to do with the desire, and it has everything to do with faith, and it has everything to do with right mental attitude.
Anything the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. I have people continually coming up and saying, you know, I just have a difficult time believing I can do this or that or whatever. When I set a new goal, I have difficulty believing I can do it. You come to believe. You don't start out with belief. I don't start out with belief. When I set a goal, I don't believe I can do it. Intellectually, I know I can do it. But in my heart, no. So you know what I do? I just keep repeating it. I keep repeating it over and over and over again. I turn it into a song.
If I wasn't persistent in my goals of wanting to become an African-American quarterback, I probably would have quit somewhere along the way. African-Americans weren't really thought of as quarterbacks, as leaders, as faces of franchises, as guys who could think and make decisions. And everywhere along the way where people told me I couldn't, I just had to prove that I could. I got to a level in college where I was the Pac-8 Player of the Year. I was the most valuable player in the Rose Bowl, a game that I had always dreamed of playing in as a young kid. And then I felt like I was going to get my opportunity to maybe play in the National Football League, which was my dream. But I was constantly told throughout the process of the draft that I was going to be changed and my position was going to be either a wide receiver or a defensive back. So that's where I had to make a huge decision in my life. What am I going to do? Am I going to take this NFL opportunity at a position that I didn't love, that I'd never played before? Or do I want to go and play in Canada, a country I've never been to, a style of play that I had never played before, but they were going to give me the chance to play quarterback? I'm having a great career up there. You know, we're winning championships. I'm winning MVP awards. But in the back of my mind is, how good a player am I? Could I play with the best? So that's one of the things that motivated me to come back to the National Football League, was to see how I measured up against the best players in the world. And I answered a lot of those questions, and I answered a lot of that doubt by being able to come back and play at a high level. The status that I was able to achieve as an African-American man at that position gave motivation to a generation of young players that could look to me, look to some other guys that played during my era. I helped make a difference at a position where there was a lot of stereotypes, as I talked about, and racism in certain areas. And now that I've finished the game, one of my big motivations is to help others by using the status that I've achieved and using the platform that I've been able to gain by doing that.
If your goals and desires are stronger than the adversity that you will face, and we're going to face adversities, it'll pull you through, and then you'll be successful. I can't achieve my success without temporary defeat, without getting kicked in the face every now and then. But that's okay. Use it as education. And that's where you can rely on the pillars of the 13 principles for success that are within this book.
When the opportunity came and the Napoleon Hill Foundation was looking for somebody to write the Latino version, and I heard about it, I thought, that's me, I've got to do it. One of my favorite stories is a story of Jesse Trevino. He became one of the most famous and respected Latino artists in the country. His works hang at the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. But as a younger man, few can imagine the fear he faced and the courage he summoned. The year was 1967. The Vietnam War was raging, the draft was on, and Jesse received a telegram. Report in 3 days to your local draft office in San Antonio. And he decided to serve. He said, yeah, I want to go and do my part for my country. And all of a sudden, he was right in the middle of battle.
Dear Mama, I'm a foot soldier patrolling the Mekong Valley in Vietnam. In just 3 months, half of my unit has been either killed or wounded. Every day I imagine being home, near to you. So much pain in a place that is so beautiful.
His right arm was on fire and all but severed at the elbow. The main artery in his leg was cut. He couldn't move. He was bleeding to death. Private First Class Jesse Trevino survived, thanks to the quick action of his buddies, who dragged him to a helicopter and flew him to a Marshfield hospital. They patched him up and saved his life. He almost lost his leg. He had shrapnel all over his body. But he did lose his right hand. Now he was an artist, and his painting hand was gone. 2 years passed. His wounds were healing, but his heart grew deep with despair. He agonized over the idea of what he could paint, or if he could. Then one day a thought, like a spark of light out of the darkness.
If I learn to paint all over again, with my left hand, I'll paint the things that I love the most. My family and my neighborhood.
He took classes with beginning artists. He painted murals of the horrors of war. He even got his master's degree. Then he made the biggest discovery of all. The talent and knowledge needed to paint was in his mind, in his heart, not in his hand. And it had been there all along. With his left hand, he became one of the most successful artists in the United States and in the world. Today, as he talks about that experience, he feels that if that had not happened to him, he would not have been able to be the artist that he became, because it gave him a stronger determination. He said, I am going to do it no matter what.
A lot of people set out with a great desire to accomplish what they want, but they get tripped up along the way, tripped up by obstacles. So I think every hugely successful person I've met has extreme desire. But you know what they have that is so grossly underestimated more than anything else is an inability to feel sorry for themselves when they get hit. They certainly feel the pain like everybody else, but they're very good at getting back up fast without feeling sorry for themselves. And I have found that to be my #1 trait. But it's the inability to feel sorry for yourself that explains an enormous amount of success in life. Personal, business, whatever your goal is.
I've had a lot of people talk to me about my legacy. And when I was growing up, my dad would ask me each night, have you added value to someone's life today? And so I believe legacy is created each and every day. As individuals, if we add value to other people's lives, then our legacy is there, because they will remember us having added value to their lives. It's never been on my bucket list to be a celebrity. In the last few years, I realized that by becoming more of a celebrity and being out there, I can impact more lives by sharing the information that I've learned through my many years of experience. And so it's important for me so that at night I can say I truly have added value to someone's life today.
I was only 11 when my father died, and I was the eldest of 5 children, so I had to overcome it. He never treated me like a regular girl. He never stopped me from doing anything. I remember that some of my friends would say, don't do that, only boys can do that. My father never stopped me from doing anything. The legacy I wanted to leave behind is the continuation of what my father gave me, the belief that there are no boundaries to what you want to achieve in life. You see, a seed was planted in my mind before my father passed away. His encouragement and belief in me is like the water, and the harvest is the legacy I'm leaving behind. You set your mind into something, you focus on it, you make it happen.
I believe it's extremely important to know our why and to know our purpose throughout every stage or season of life, and it could change and evolve. When I was a kid, all I cared about was being a great athlete and being the best that I could be. At the time, I actually wanted to be better than everyone else. My vision and my purpose, my legacy was to be the best. But I felt angry still. I felt unfulfilled. I felt like something was missing. And I didn't understand until later in my 20s where I was like, it's because I'm selfish. It's because I'm only thinking about me, and I want me to be highlighted as the best and everyone else to be second place. And as I started to realize that my life is about service, it's about giving, it's about serving others, that's when I started to achieve my goals and not feel empty inside. When our inner world evolves, our outer world evolves, and things start coming to us in a natural flow in life. My current legacy is to inspire 100 million people to show them how to make a full-time living doing what they love.
The Marconi story, to me, was inspiring because oftentimes people thought I was crazy, too. Hearing Marconi's story was like, maybe I'm not the one that didn't belong. Maybe I actually might be exceptional.
Mr. Marconi? Sir? Yes, I'm busy at the moment. Mr. Marconi, we respectfully request that you come with us, sir.
I couldn't possibly. I'm right in the middle of...
We have papers that give us the authority to take you...
Papers? Are you from the government?
No, we're...
From the military? Ministry of Defense?
No, sir.
Thank God for that.
We're from the hospital.
What hospital?
St. Albans.
There must be a misunderstanding. Isn't that a mental asylum?
Yes, sir. If you would just come quietly, I'm sure we can straighten this out later.
On whose authority?
The hospital was called by your friends.
Friends?
Acquaintances, perhaps? Concerned for you.
And on the gossip of idle, ignorant troublemakers...
If you'll just come with us, sir, I'm sure it'll be straightened out.
I will not come with you. This is insane.
As you say, sir. We have a straitjacket in the carriage, but we don't want to be forced to use it. It's for your own good, sir.
I'm sure.
Mr. Marconi, I'm Dr. Fielding.
Finally, an intelligent person, hopefully.
Do you know why you are here?
I assumed I said too much at a dinner party after a glass or two of champagne, talked about things people don't understand.
Your friends are concerned about you, and I must say, so am I.
Friends?
You claim to be able to send and receive human voices through the air.
Yes.
Well, you obviously don't realize it, but this is the textbook definition of schizophrenia.
I don't hear disembodied voices in my head.
Good.
I send voices through the air from one device to another by way of invisible waves.
And this is less delusional, how exactly?
It's less delusional because it's true.
That has not been my experience.
Your experience is the thing, it's the thing of the past.
And you?
I'm a thing of the future.
You interest me.
I'm happy for you that you have a patient that interests you. For my own part, I have been forcibly removed from my home and my work. I've been stripped of my clothes, given an ice bath, dressed in prison pajamas, and my only crime was to be a little too smart for the smart set in London. Now, if allowed to return to my workshop, I can demonstrate these things, preferably in my own clothes.
Come with me.
"13 years later, Guglielmo Marconi won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1909 at the age of 34. He is now universally recognized as the inventor of the radio. Marconi understood the power of a new idea.
So one of my biggest defeats came 2 months after I launched. All of a sudden, I saw that my statistics for my podcast were way, way down. Like at first, I thought it might be a mistake, and I kind of double-checked the phone. I refreshed my browser. I actually even wrote an email to support of the media host company. And I said, are your stats working? And they said, oh yeah, we're working fine, no problem. And I said, wow, so this could be the beginning of the end. And I was really down and I was thinking, do I list my microphone on Craigslist? Like, am I gonna pack it up? Am I really gonna sell everything and try something different and admit defeats? Fired up my computer and saw an email from a listener. And he started off by introducing himself as a military veteran. So I had that connection with him right away because we both served in Iraq. And he was telling me about his struggles coming back and about the struggles he had with PTSD. And then he went on to say how that morning he was particularly down in the dumps. He had recently broken up with his girlfriend and he just really felt by himself, like nobody cared. He went for a long walk, really kind of considering what it would look like if he committed suicide, like if he ended his own life. Kind of out of the blue, had his phone with him, plugged in his earbuds, and turned on my podcast. My voice came on, a little over-enthusiastic, which I tend to do sometimes. But he said he needed it. Like, he needed that kind of positive outlook. By the end of that episode, which was 25 minutes in length, his mindset had completely shifted. He went from somebody who was only looking for the negatives in life, and by the way, finding the negatives, because that's what he was looking for, to saying it really can't get much worse, so why not just hope that it starts to get better? And that was essentially the theme and the message that that podcast episode was focused on. You could just see that by the end of the email, he was really excited and fired up about what his next step was going to be. Like, I remember finishing that email and saying, wow, like if my podcast can positively impact somebody in this way, even if it's just one person, why am I so concerned about not having the huge numbers that I had when I first launched? And that was 4 years ago. That was over 1,400 episodes ago. That was over 40 million listens ago. So I'm really glad that I didn't pack it in.
One of my favorite all-time stories of Think and Grow Rich is the Charles Schwab story. It's about succeeding with what you already have. And it reminds me of an interview. I had an opportunity to sit down with Steve Wozniak. Now, you probably know him from Apple Computers with Steve Jobs. And I asked him, I says, how did you and Steve have so much success in your life? And he looked at me and said, we succeeded with what we already had. I go, what are you talking about? He said, when microchips came out, they were so expensive, we could only afford one chip. He goes, Jobs sold his Volkswagen, I sold my calculator, we pooled our money to buy one chip. He goes, but Hewlett-Packard was rich. They had all the money of God. They could go from point A to point B using 20 chips where we simply couldn't afford it. So I'd pull away 5 and configure it to work. And then I'd pull away 5 and get it to work. Till finally, I could go from point A to point B using our one chip. He goes, look, we weren't trying to be cool or innovative or slick. We could only afford one chip. But by embracing that as an opportunity, I found the shortest, cleanest path. And by doing so, changed the way people do personal computing for the rest of the world, for the rest of their life. What are you sitting on right now that looks like the greatest challenge, but it might just be the greatest blessing in disguise?
My mentor was a guy named Dennis Waitley in the speaking profession. Dennis wrote the foreword to my very first book, and I was on a speaking tour with he and Dr. Robert Schuller, and they twisted my arm into writing my first book. And I always had that cane folded up in my suitcase when I traveled. I never used it, but that white cane, I kept it, and then Dennis Waitley, 40 years later, on his 80th birthday, came to an event I was doing in San Diego. I brought him up on stage and I gave it to him. And on his 80th birthday, he was going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And he said, I'll accept your gift. With your permission, I'll leave this on top of Mount Kilimanjaro. If you'll promise when you're 80, you'll go get it back. And that's where my cane is.
3 feet from gold. And that story always reminded me that at all times I could just be 3 feet from gold. It could be the next meeting, the next turn, the next chance encounter. That really propelled me and pushed me through some of those dark moments. You're always potentially just 3 feet from gold.
There was a man named Darby who was caught by gold fever in 1850. He staked a claim and went to work. After weeks of labor, he was rewarded.
There's a lot more where this one came from. Now, we just need the right equipment to get it out the ground. Now, everybody who puts in will get an equal share out. Everybody.
The first ore was shipped to a smelter. The return showed promise that they had one of the richest mines in Colorado. A few more cars of that ore would clear the debts. Then would come the big killing and profits. Down went the pickaxes. Up went the hopes of Darby and his investors. Then something happened. The vein of gold ore disappeared. They persevered, desperately trying to pick up the vein again, but to no avail.
Had a good run, I guess. And then it ran clean out. Nothing but rock. Spent all we had in this equipment. Maybe somebody else could use it.
I reckon I can find a buyer.
I'll give you
$100 for the lot.
Okay.
Where was this? Did you mind out?
This particular junk man had an eye for opportunity. He called in a geologist to do a little calculating.
By my reckoning, this mine failed because that fella Darby was not familiar with fault lines. When the earth shifts, the vein can jut over a few feet.
A few.
3, maybe 4, 5 feet at the most.
That is exactly where it was found. The junk man took millions of dollars in ore from the mine because he knew enough to seek expert advice when encountering an unexpected obstacle. He struck gold just 3 feet from where Darby gave up. When Darby heard about the riches he might have earned had he not quit, he made the most powerful decision of his life. He promised himself to never quit again in his new line of work. As an insurance provider, he became one of a small group of fewer than 50 people who sold more than $1 million in life insurance annually. He recouped his losses and paid all his family and neighbors back the money they had invested. He also discovered that desire itself can be transmuted into gold.
Surround yourself with people who are going to be there to bolster you while you build your self-confidence. Have people on your team who are strong where you are weak. Have people on your team who want to support you. Have been where you want to go. Mentors that will open the door for you. That power of association is so strong.
Everyone's still searching for that sense of power. And the first and most powerful way, literally, to do that is help someone else. And Napoleon Hill's vision is that happiness is absolutely created. Not through riches, even though it's in the title, and it's confused a lot of people. The richness is in giving happiness to other people. Giving that sense of power to them that they can influence others. And by influencing others, simply by making them feel valuable, important, unique. Now they've reaffirmed their own purpose, and now they realize their power was always there in the first place.
You are the defiant human spirit. And when you connect with that, you defy the things that hold you back from being all that you can be.
The biggest dream you ever had in your life is alive and well. And we all have those big dreams, goals, passions, callings, things we want to do in this life. And sometimes we haven't thought about them in 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years. And the only thing you have to do to activate it is sit right where you're sitting right now and say, yes, I'm going to do that. I don't know how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, who to do it with. But once you say, yes, I'm going to do that, and you make that definite decision, the world starts to change.
You've been born an original, don't die a copy. There's nobody else like you. There's only one person that walks like you, has your handprints. Nobody has eyes like you. Don't be a discount version of yourself.
As you dig into Napoleon Hill's work, what you're really digging into is who you are. And who you are is so big, I have studied it every day for 55 years, and I think I'm just scratching the surface. Do yourself a favor and really begin to think. That is Napoleon Hill's legacy. That is your opportunity.
Cherish your visions and your dreams, as they are the children of your soul, the blueprints of your ultimate achievements. Create a definite plan for carrying out your desire, and begin at once, whether you are ready or not, to put this plan into action. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Do not wait. The time will never be just right. Start where you stand and work with whatever tools you may have, and better tools will be found as you go along. Desire is the starting point of all achievement. Not a hope, not a wish, but a keen, pulsating desire, which transcends everything. The oak sleeps in the acorn. The bird waits in the egg. And in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of reality. Through some strange and powerful principle of mental chemistry, which she has never divulged, nature wraps up in the impulse of strong desire that something which recognizes no such word as impossible and accepts no such reality as failure. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve.